Welcome to today's episode of the Insurance, Life, and Everything in Between podcast. My name is Adam Brsan.
And I'm Chris Smith.
If you've yet to do so, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another episode. And if you love this podcast, don't forget to share it with a friend or colleague. We greatly appreciate your help and support.
Hold on. So everything in between, real quick. Why does everything cost $5,000? I'm going to share a story. Nick's going to share a story. We have a new theory in the everything in between category. Why does everything cost $5,000, Nick? What do you think the reason is?
I don't know. It's really crazy, though, because every time I turn around, somebody's asking me for $5,000.
I'll tell my story, and then you can tell yours, because it really does seem like everything costs $5,000, and nobody wants to pay advanced commission. So how did you pay $5,000 for anything?
Incredible.
Not even advanced commissions. You know what? PDP commissions. Screw it. We know your life costs $5,000, but we won't pay you for it. A couple weeks ago, I took the family dog, to a campground. Great weekend, friends, family. I've even filmed from there. You want to go back a year ago and see. And got back, kids get home, and the youngest is like, "What's on Lucy's face?" And it's like this weird injury on the dog. And all while I'm trying to take AHIP, mind you, Nick. It's AHIP day. It's on the calendar. Everything else is crossed off. The dog's injured. And in the process of figuring out why the dog's injured, one of the other kids breaks their foot. I'm like, at what point could anything else go wrong? Well, drove the dog to the vet. They're like, "Here's some antibiotics. You'll be okay." And the dog's face begins to swell. I'm like, that's definitely not making it any better. So I go to a different vet, and they're like, "This dog has an aggressive cancerous tumor. It's over." I'm like, "Oh, and also give us $1,500. I'm like, "Okay, we're getting there. We're getting close to the $5,000 mark. Oh, and go get a CAT scan." It seems like a reasonable thing to do. Let's go to Lancaster and get a CAT scan. So the dog and I went to Lancaster on Thursday. I think, yeah, all the way up to Lancaster, dropped them off, come back, and the results are that it's probably an abscess. It's not cancer. That other doctor was wrong. But the total bill, $3,000. We're right around that $5,000 mark, and I'll spend whatever $1,000 it takes to fix the dog.
Of course.
But it really does seem like everything costs $5,000 lately.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Well, my goodness, my story is much less harrowing than yours. Like mine is, I'm just getting a quote from a landscaper, but we bought our house, in 2018, that we're living in now. And the previous owners had a very kind of rustic landscaping aesthetic with lots and lots and lots and lots of trees, and lots of kind of like intentional overgrowth. So it looks like it's sloppy and wooded, but it's actually like sort of manicured and done in sort of an intentional sloppy way, which is fine. But it's not super duper our aesthetic. But it was neat. When we first moved in here, there was a little bit of like, oh, hey, we live near the woods, even though we're in a suburb. Kind of like it felt kind of cool for a little while. But we've recently gotten puppies, and we would like them to be able to use our backyard. And so that means we want to put up a fence because we don't want them running into traffic. And
that would cost more than $5,000.
That would cost more than $5,000. And so we were going to have somebody come out and put up a fence, which, by the way, is about $5,000. And and we were like, well, we could we should actually make use of our whole yard and not fence in this area in front of this little overgrowth wooded area, which the overgrown wooded area takes up a good third of our property. And so we were like, well, we should maybe just get this cleared out. And so we're having a landscaper come over to give us a quote on what it would cost to do that. But he also, before he came out, he said, well, we'll give you an exact quote. We'll walk the land. We'll figure out exactly where the property lines are. But just kind of like looking at it from like Google Earth images, it looks like it's probably about a $5,000 job. And so I said this to Chris, and I was like, this is just like everything that I get asked. Every time I turn around and I need something done, I am being asked for either $300 or $5,000. Those are the only two amounts of dollar amounts that work comes in. They come in increments of $300 and $5,000, and it's insane to me.
It is. I was talking to a carrier recently, and they were remarking about their increase in lapses and their decrease in desire to pay advances. And that had me equally nervous. Then another carrier was concerned about their an agent wanting to be paid. And then another carrier, like it just seems like in the world where everything's costing $5,000, it also seems like a lot of the life carriers are getting incredibly nervous about doing their job.
Something has happened where and I don't know what it is. And I don't know if it's just the fallout from the explosion of the PHP FFL agencies getting so big so quickly in the last 10
Yeah.
years, because they did get very large very rapidly, which, more power to them.
God bless them.
You
Good
know,
job.
I actually think like I got talked into reading Your Next Five Moves by
Yeah.
Patrick Bet David, and like that actually is a fantastic book. I would recommend it. Just if nothing else, an interesting biography of his growth with PHP, regardless of what you think of PHP. Genuinely a fascinating guy. And but their growth has been so explosive, and they are both very recruit heavy,
Mhm.
that I wonder if the carriers, who particularly on the life insurance side are somewhat slow to change and somewhat
Mhm.
slow to recognize that the world around them is changing, got sort of caught up in a whirlwind,
And
and
and very quick to
didn't
overreact
were not prepared for.
and overreact very
Yeah,
quickly.
yeah, and have since, like, yeah, overcorrected is I think the correct response. I
Yeah.
know, I know there's a fraternal organization that came out with a really excellent final expense product, and then followed that up with a really excellent fully underwritten whole life product that are both written algorithmically on the iCover platform, um, that
Cool.
opened it up to, man, and we told them at the time. Like, I remember having a conversation with their sales director at the time, being like, "You are letting too many agents contract for this product at the same time. Like, you're not rolling this out in a controlled way at all." And he was like, "Nah, we got it. We're fine. We're going to be okay." And now, it was 9 months later, they've switched everybody to as earned, and they've stopped contracting new agents. And
And I don't think it was that they contracted too many agents, and please don't terminate me and take my renewals for having this conversation. I think that they didn't protect themselves with proper mid-level distribution. Like I
maybe,
saw guys posting on LinkedIn that they were selling that product that I know probably picked up a direct deal because they were hungry for distribution. Like they had reinsurance, they needed to sell insurance to make money. They brought on iCover, they revamped the whole thing, they brought on competitive commission levels. But look at it this way. If you take on 1,000 people direct and then a few hundred of them leave you $1,000 of debt, it's like death with 1,000 scratches, or however
right?
that phrase goes. And the mid-level of the hierarchy and the top level of the hierarchy protect both the small, medium, and large carriers from death from 1,000
Yeah.
scratches. Well, it kills all the guys in between first.
Well, I mean, and there's a reason why most carriers reduce your commission if they take you direct, right? They won't give you street level commissions. They won't give you IMO street level commissions. They will give you their own internal street level commissions. It's street level, but there is no definition of street level. There's no percentage that street level equates to. So they'll give you an IMO. So most carriers, if you go direct, will pay you less. And that's because there's less protection. They're more at risk. And I think that's reasonable. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's reasonable.
Okay,
Everybody's in business to make money. Everybody has to make money, and everybody has to have a little bit of protection from downside risk. I mean, we're in insurance, for God's sakes. We have to understand risk transference.
yeah.
And like, I think that's reasonable. And I think the company we're talking about is a great company. I really like them.
Hey,
I
I'm
think
for
their
it.
product is really great. I think, their culture is really great. I think the way they do things is really great. But they made a mistake, right? I think that they made what to me seemed like at the time a very obvious mistake, but I wasn't in their boardrooms. I don't know. Maybe they were. Maybe from their perspective it was very reasonable to think that it wasn't a mistake. But mm, it, I'm hoping that they right the ship and the whole thing doesn't go down the tubes the way that it has with some other smaller fraternals. Um, we'll find out.
Yeah, I'm really wondering what the life space looks like the next 12 months, because we already saw significant retraction, changes in distribution, exits from the market, and now we're seeing the second wave. Maybe it's not exits from the market, but it's just pulling back on advanced commission. Where do we look like into the next generation of this wave? And of course, we're going to ride it. We'll write something, and it's also very challenging from a building perspective because, like I was saying to you off camera, there just isn't a life product in the independent space in 40 states where you can get contracted in 48 hours, write business, and get paid that week when you write the business, which is a crucial part of onboarding a new agent. You know, I remember when I was brand new
Yeah.
to the business, I started with Foresters, Transamerica, eventually American Continental, Gerber, and that was really about it. But Foresters would pay on draft, and I felt like contracted me pretty quickly back in the day. And I really don't know how long it took. It was a long time ago. But I feel like that piece of the puzzle is missing in our space where I can't just say, Nick, let's go. You've got a number by Tuesday. You can write on Wednesday and get paid on Friday, generally speaking. Maybe I'm wrong here.
No, I don't think you're wrong. Like I mean, and I go back and forth, like on the Medicare side of things, quick contracting is just not a thing that exists on the
No.
Medicare side of things, right? That just doesn't exist, right? Right. Like I had somebody come up to me 3 days ago, I think. They reached out to me and they were like, "Hey, I want to get into Medicare for this AEP." And to which my response was, "Well, too late." Like kind of maybe we can get you ready, maybe, but you've never done Medicare before. You have no contracts already. You have no experience. I think January is a good time to be targeting if you're right now on September at the time 4th. If you're on September 4th telling me, "Hey, I want to get into Medicare for 2025," January is when you should be expecting to start, not October 15th. Is it possible? It's possible. But
Mm.
it's going to be uh, tough. Uh, like we could probably get you up and running for November 15th. But
Mhm.
like,
I mean, you might get
do you want to come
big
into the AEP in November? In the middle of
you might
November?
get one carrier,
Right.
but it would be it's
You're not going
tough.
to
Like,
be, yeah. It's so, but there is the upside there of it's harder to get a fly by night Medicare agent.
true.
Medicare's upfront payments are lower. It's harder to get a fly by night Medicare agent because they have to commit to working for a year where even if they're producing in volume, it's really, really, really hard to make more than like $68,000 year one in Medicare.
Mhm.
Like it's not impossible, right? But it's tough with the way things prorate and with like like you have to really be putting up like super rock star numbers to be making more than $70,000 in your first year.
Yeah.
Where with life insurance, you can make $70,000 in your first year if you're not very good at this.
You can fraudulently make $70,000 in a month.
Right.
Fraudulently.
Very difficult to do on the Medicare side.
Yeah, and
Lot
I
more,
understand.
lot more protections in place on the Medicare side.
Yeah, I understand the protections are important, but it's also you get like that push and pull where you're trying to protect, but it's also making it hard to start. Like we talked about last week, which hasn't been released yet, but they'll probably all get out at the same
Yeah.
time. There's like you're trying to correct the issue with senior prescription costs, and before you know it, trying to fix that pushed a whole different problem on the table. That wasn't a
Yeah.
problem. Now it's off the table.
Yeah.
Like I saw a max out of pocket of $9,000 on a plan today.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, they fixed the prescription problem, but now the mop's out of control.
Yeah.
Like,
It's
oops.
yeah. I was going through. So Humana released their first looks today as we're recording this. They've been out for like 3 hours. Um, and and I was looking through them for my local area, but also for some of the agents that I work through. And the plan contraction that is going on is extensive.
Mhm.
A lot. a lot of plans have uh, prescription drug deductibles now that you used to only see on PDPs.
I saw a deductible just on the damn plan itself today.
Yep, the givebacks have dropped tremendously. The amount of money that they're putting into givebacks has gone way down. There was a plan that used to have an $80 give back that is going to have a $1 give back in Tennessee next year. So I was talking to an agent about it right before we started recording this. I was going through first looks with a couple of agents, and he was like, "So I'm getting ready to put this person onto this plan in Tennessee." And I was like, "Before you put them onto that plan for October 1st, let's make sure it's still a good plan for. Let's make sure it's still a good plan for January, so you're not like in 3 weeks having to rewrite them."
I was doing that all week last week when I've already had an idea of what that carrier looks like next year. Or, well, I'm not advertising the plan, but if I am a fair enough advocate for my client and I know that that plan don't exist next, like,
Yeah,
there is a little bit of a common sense approach you can take where you're like, don't do that.
Yeah.
You're going to hate yourself in a month.
Yeah.
It's really smart.
Yeah, and so right, like you just checking yourself, especially if you're writing, if you're doing an enrollment for 10-1, like there's not a lot
Sure.
of people that you're going to be writing that are going to be enrolling in 10-1, but like if you're doing a 10-1 enrollment, you make sure that it still makes sense 1-1, like don't 5 weeks later have to go like redo all the work that you
Yeah.
just did.
Well, it's not like you can write a plan that's contracted, but you can also write a plan that's going to suck, which
Right.
you want to avoid.
Right.
Like you can't even write Aetna Smart Fit on Sunfire anymore because it don't exist in January.
Yeah. Which is for the best, which is a shame. I mean, the Aetna Smart Fit plan was a really nice plan. I liked it, but it's good that it's at least not an option. That it'll that Aetna's not letting new people come onto that plan because that would be a disaster. Like that would be bad.
Well,
But
let's ask a training question here, or scenario question here for someone watching at minute 17. You have somebody who is in a dual plan in an area where said dual plan will no longer exist in January 1. Are they going to be crosswalked into something else? Are they going to be dropped entirely? Are they going to be returned to original Medicare and Medicaid? What happens to Miss Johnson in that scenario whose plan's no longer in existence?
I mean, it depends on the carrier, right? So, if the carrier is putting out a dual plan that is not getting rid of all of their dual plans, because some places carriers are cutting their dual plans entirely. If the carrier is cutting their dual plan entirely, they're going to end up just back on original Medicare. If they're on if they're with most of the companies, I think, that I've seen that are contracting their dual plans are going to crosswalk people over onto an appropriate dual plan. But you know what? I actually haven't checked on everybody yet because we are so late in the game. Like it's September 6th.
Be looking at first looks, yeah.
Yeah, we're getting so many of these first looks so late in the game that stuff is still a little bit crazy right now. And I'm used to by the middle of August, like having this stuff locked down. And September 6th, as we record this, and 3 hours ago.
Yeah. Emily Trevino posted about the FIDE issue, fully integrated dual plan, which all of these things have all these references to, but not a single summary of benefits says FIDE on it in star or exclamation point. Like, we don't even know what they are, even though they're supposed to be. It's the craziest thing. Thanks, CMS. Like, what is this?
Yeah, it's not great, is what it is. And you'll notice that AHIP didn't touch on any of this. No. Right? Like there wasn't a whole big like, hey, the way dual eligible plans are working is going to change dramatically in 2025 thing in AHIP. Like they just treated it like it was any other day. There's a little bit of information about it, but it was not like this big flashing neon sign like it was when they changed marketing rules. This is, I think, more significant than the changes to marketing rules. Like this is the stuff that we need to understand. And I think the problem is that very few people at the carriers genuinely understand it yet. If you talk to carrier reps from different carriers, you get conflicting information. You know, somebody from Cigna will tell you something different than somebody from Humana, who will tell you something different than somebody from Anthem. And that is a problem.
Yeah, I think they've released all these concepts and ideas and federal mandates without actually the next step taking place.
Yeah.
And that's very concerning. You know, we only have about 9 or so minutes left.
Yeah.
But I read this online, and I'd love to get your thoughts on it because it could go a million of different directions. Somebody said, with all these changes, that they should expand AEP a week longer, a week later, a week further. They expand AEP because this is just a hot shit mess of stuff right now. So without expanding AEP by a week, because that really doesn't solve anything, could annual enrollment be all year? Could it be that you only get 2 changes? I feel like annual enrollment is all year because, Nick, I've had an SEP for a bridge that collapsed in April all year.
So here's the thing. Like, lockout periods are bad for consumers. Just full out. Lockout periods, blackout periods, the inability to change your plan when you want to change your plan is anti-consumer. It just is.
Fair.
It is a protection that is put in place for the carriers. And
True.
maybe it's a needed protection. I don't know. Maybe it is a needed protection because without it, things go crazy. There was a time prior to AEP when people were buying Medicare and Medicare Advantage plans existed, right? There was a window between when Medicare Advantage plans were invented and 2008 when they started putting all these additional regulations in.
Like ACA 2 summers ago or 1 summer ago.
Yeah. And like, I'm not going to tell you that was good, right? Like ACA 2 years ago was a nightmare.
Wild
And
West.
and also bad for consumers. So there is a balance, but I think we are tilted too far away from the consumer friendly side. We are making it harder and harder to get access to special election periods. We are putting no restrictions on doctors leaving networks. We're putting no restrictions on, or we're putting in no exemptions for people starting new medications that may or may not be on a formulary. People who are receiving low-income subsidies, who could be hurt the most by getting prescribed a non-formulary medication, are not being given any exceptions any longer. It is a rough time to be a Medicare consumer. It has gone from being a really great time, like 2018 to like 2022 was a really, really excellent time to be turning 65. Like if you were starting Medicare
we're still around
in that time frame, things were really good because you got in and things were settled. And you know, by at this point, if you were turning 65 in 2018, you are approaching 70, and statistically, you've passed your point of highest expenditure immediately post-retirement, and things are a little bit easier and things have settled. This was a good time to be turning 65. It is not a great time to be turning 65 right now. If you are just starting Medicare right now, Medicare is less good in 2025 than it was in 2024 for consumers. And it was less good in 2024 than it was in 2022. It's kind of the same 2022, 2023.
I'll tell you,
but it's
interesting observation from the field, which speaks exactly to what you're saying. Then we can wrap up on time.
Yeah.
We have the birthday rule in Maryland
Yeah.
where you can change your Medicare supplement on your birthday month, but you got to have you have to literally find a copy of the Constitution, attach it to the application.
Right.
The Maryland Constitution, nonetheless, have Wes Moore autograph it, attach a picture of your firstborn to it, and then pray that it gets approved, and then you'll get paid $25.
Right.
I mean, for the consumer, it makes perfect sense. For the agent, it's ridiculous. Terrible. But I encountered a situation 2 days ago in Baltimore. Clients were on subs, ironically, in the hood, and it was a trial right situation. The guy had cancer. He was paying out the nose on his Advantage plan. His Advantage plan wasn't working right in a city that has very weird network issues. He wants to go back to his Medicare supplement. Trial right opportunity. And one of the rules with trial rights is not just the first year thing, but also you can go into another Medicare supplement if your existing Medicare supplement's no longer offered on the market.
Right.
Like you have to go back to your original plan
You have to
normally.
go back, right?
But Ascendo wasn't offered anymore.
Ooh.
Like his literal Medicare supplement that he had in April doesn't exist anymore. So I can write him with whatever I want, but that kind of speaks to the situation the entire market's in.
Yeah, right. Like it's a tough time. And like I'm having conversations with my Medicare supplement clients. I spoke to somebody, I set an appointment for October with somebody this morning who I wrote originally in 2014, and
Well,
who has been with Aetna in their Medicare supplement since 2014, and has been pretty happy with Aetna since 2014, and called me up today and was like, "Hey, Nick, we gotta see if I can move to a different plan because we got uh, an unsustainable price increase this year." Um, and so we'll have to see if that's even possible because I don't know. Like I've talked to them several times since 2014, but I don't know that their health is good enough anymore to be able to change. And that's a real problem. And I no longer have the confidence in switching somebody to a Medicare Advantage plan from a Medicare supplement plan that I would have had
mm,
this time last year, where I'd have been
wow.
able to say, you know what, we can build you something that's kind of comparable. We can
Mm,
get you onto maybe a PFFS plan or something where you don't have a lot of problems with networks, and we can put some indemnity plans backing it up, and like
mm.
we'll get you,
With
we
an,
can build something.
with
Um,
an $8,000 mop, it's just like
yeah,
hospital stay day 1 through 8. Like it just, that's a very
yes,
interesting observation. And it with the fact that you can't change med subs without medical underwriting, but Medicare Advantage has no medical underwriting, that's like the safeguard that prevents sub flipping the same way that
yeah.
you don't have with Medicare Advantage. And then they created the birthday rule, which was consumer friendly and agent charity work. But it's just a very interesting time in our industry. For those that are still watching, Nick, what the F are they to do?
I don't know. I think if they stopped treating agents like we were bad guys, actually consumers would be helped a lot. And maybe this is just me because I'm an agent and I feel this way. But like, man, do you know how many more people would, I mean, maybe this is why they don't do it, right? But how many more consumers would be helped by agents if agents got paid for birthday rule changes, right? How, like, it would be so good for consumers. But
Mhm.
agents aren't going to go out and look for that business to help people because they're not going to get paid for it, and it's a lot of work for not very much money.
Yeah,
And you can't expect your average workaday agent to do that. So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. Kind of keep muddling through the best we can. There's still a lot of good that can be done. The sky is not falling. There's still a lot of good stuff that can come out of this, but it is a step backwards in terms of what's the best for consumers. It's unfortunate.
yeah. The sky is not falling. You can still make money. We both have agents out today writing business and making money.
Yeah,
But the harder it gets, the better some people are going to get. And maybe it pushes a few bad actors out. It makes the good actors more money.
yeah,
And in 3, 4, 5 years, when we're filming it again, which we've been doing for God knows how long as it is, maybe we'll be back at a pinnacle of Medicare again.
yeah,
So you'll be able to watch some different perspectives over the years.
yeah.
Interestingly enough.
It'll be yeah. It will be interesting. It is a very interesting time to be working in the Medicare space. Um, I'm very interested to see what the next 5 years brings because I suspect it will be a time of tremendous change over the next 5 years. But almost always, that is a good thing for insurance agents. Change is difficult, change is frustrating, change makes us pull our hair out. But with very rare exceptions, change is almost always a creator of opportunity for us. And so, if we are on the lookout for the openings, there will be openings.
Absolutely. Do me a favor if you're watching at this point, comment on whatever platform you're watching us on, or if you're listening, comment if you have the capability to do so. We love your views. We watch the subscribers grow every week. It's all organic. We don't pay for a single subscriber like some people do, but we need you to comment. Even if you catch us on a short, his page, my page, YouTube, LinkedIn, whatever you're watching us on, comment below, and we'll see you next week.
And this concludes another episode of the Insurance, Life, and Everything in Between podcast. If you like what you heard, don't forget to subscribe, share with a friend or colleague, and if you have any comments or suggestions for future episodes, please leave those too. Any input is greatly appreciated. Thank you.